Mr. Beasley, if you don't mind, I need to move down the table to Dr. Croom. I understand that you've got an appointment, and we'll let you make your comments, and then we'll come back to you, and you feel free to leave and do whatever you need to do, but we'll go ahead and recognize you since you have an appointment that you need to make.
Thank you, sir. I have a date with the court at 1 o'clock. So
well, I didn't want to announce that. I'll let you announce what you want to do.
Actually, it's a hearing, but I do appreciate it. You know, I don't know that there's a thing that I can say to this group that you have not already heard. You've heard great presentations. You've heard passionate teachers and administrators speak. I represent about 35,000 students in Johnston County, and I too, as the very first speaker did, I polled many of our teachers and just to get pros and cons of what they would say about the Common Core. Most of who like the challenge, they like the assessments. Excuse me, they don't like the assessments, they like the rigor of the standards. They say that it challenges our children to a degree in which they have not been challenged before. They have some concerns, and it's the same concerns that you've heard, and I'm going to try to address them in a little different light, but I think it's important. Well, their primary concern is staff development, the quality of staff development that they've had, and part of that's on central leaders, making sure that we provide what they need. But I think it's important for those who are voting on policy and law to understand when we say staff development, or we don't have enough time for staff development, or we have extra days, as Dr. Atkinson mentioned, there are so many other things that are required for our employees to be trained in other than Common Core standards. For example, I was going to pick on Senator Tillman before he left, being a former administrator. When he was in the central leadership role, he probably was not required to have principals trained to change feeding tubes in students. That's something when I was a principal I did not have to do. Now there's a whole another list of trainings in those staff development days that our employees have to have. So it's not just about the Common Core. It's about all those other issues that are out there. And then if you want to think about the grading of schools, now our school's going to be graded, and our teachers are going to be measured on that standard 6, as you've already heard. Can you imagine your evaluation or your school receiving a grade based on all the uncertainty of the curriculum that's being taught right now? So I would challenge you as lawmakers to really give us some time to adapt to it. I've used it many times, and I hate to use it again, but I had a parent that went through chemotherapy and fought cancer hard, and every time that he would get better, or his body would get accustomed to it, they would change that chemotherapy, that treatment. Eventually it got him, but he fought it for so long because there was a change in standard. It was a chemical, but it was a standard they were changing. And if they had stopped, I wouldn't have had about 18 years with my father that I had. So it's important that we don't completely throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we give it time to adapt to our schools. And I will close with this. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to listen, several superintendents, to listen to an oncologist at Carolina speak. And he was speaking to us because he was saying things that we were doing were not aggressive enough with our students. I don't remember the specific numbers, but here's what he said to us. He had 6, 7, or 8 interns working with him trying to develop a new cancer treatment drug for pancreatic cancer. And that didn't alarm me. What alarmed me was, he said, he was saying every one of his interns were of an Asian descent. And you know, that really bothered me because I believe our students are just as smart as anybody else. But what he was saying was that they were challenged to think in their instruction. And that's one thing I will say for the Common Core. It challenges our students to think, not memorization, not process, but through inquiry learning, to try to figure out other ways of getting to an answer. So most of our teachers are in support of it. The assessments are killing them. The time that they're having to test is really hurting them. But in the end, I think it's something that we just need to keep mold and work with and grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Croom. Again, you do what you need to do with your schedule, and we appreciate you being with us. We'll come back to Mr. Beasley, and I did want to say, Senator Tillman, he has to eat lunch 12 o'clock sharp. He told me the other day he was going through a growth spurt, and I just haven't figured out if he's growing taller or wider. So, but as I said before, he's my favorite senator. No offense to any of the others in here, and I'm sure he had another meeting, though, that he had to get to. Folks stay pretty busy around here. Thank you for being with us.